I don't drink beer myself, but I definitely am aware of the many storied marketing campaigns that have been used to promote beer to the billions of people who do drink it. Today, of course, the most popular brands are things like Bud Light or Michelob or Coors or Miller, but there used to be another major brand that's probably not familiar to people today. It was called SCHLITZ, brewed in Milwaukee by the Joseph Schlitz Brewing Company. And during the first half of the 20th century, it was the beer people liked to drink in the United States. It was, to quote its advertising slogan, the beer that made Milwaukee famous. But by the 1950s, Schlitz dropped to second place as St. Louis's own Anheuser-Busch took the top spot. And in the 1970s, the company decided to cut costs by using cheaper ingredients and a different brewing technique designed to shorten the production time. They also used a clarifying agent called ChillGuard that made a snot-like substance float on top of the beer. None of this went over well, and by 1976, Schlitz recalled 10 million cases of beer. So in 1977, Schlitz decided to hire the famous Chicago-based ad agency Leo Burnett and Company to rehab their image. The tagline for the new campaign was, "If you don't have Schlitz, you don't have gusto." But the commercials that made it to air had a very weird tone. So for example, in one of the most infamous commercials, an off-screen man tells a bar waitress that he'd like to take away the Schlitz beer her construction worker patrons are drinking and replace it with his own brand. She starts heckling the man, suggesting that the guys in the bar might kill him and bury him in the cement of a cornerstone in a high-rise building or turn him into an off-ramp on the interstate. Another commercial has a lumberjack holding back a ferocious cougar as he protects his beer from the off-screen man who, again, has suggested replacing it with another product. And at the end, he turns to the cougar and says, "Say hello to your lunch," as the cat growls. In other words, drink Schlitz or I'll kill you. And no, that's not my take. That's what the advertising industry started calling this campaign. Seriously. Schlitz fired their ad agency, but it was dumb decisions like these that led them to close their brewery in 1981. They were purchased by the Detroit-based Stroh Brewery Company in 1982 and wound up bringing that brand down as well. And while you can actually still buy Schlitz today, it's now made by the Pabst Brewing Company, and as you might assume, they're using the old formula, not the one with snot on top and murder in its eyes. So much for Schlitz. I guess going for the gusto wasn't such a good idea after all. But I want to talk about another beer brand that did something really strange, this time in 2008. And if you listened to our last episode, you might remember what happened. This brand started telling everyone they were going to display their beer's logo on the moon. I'm Sean in St. Louis, and this is the Marketing Gateway. Rolling Rock Pale Lager was first commercially brewed in 1939 by the Latrobe Brewing Company in Pennsylvania. It's probably best known for its green bottles and the number 33 being featured on the glass to refer to the number of words in the brewery's slogan. But it's also traditionally featured a horse head in its logo. In 2006, Anheuser-Busch bought the brand from the Belgian company InBev, and they really didn't know what to do with it. One of the first things they did was transfer brewing to Newark, New Jersey, leading to a union boycott and some upset beer drinkers because the traditional brewing method had depended upon the soft water from Latrobe. After all of this, Anheuser-Busch was trying to turn Rolling Rock's image around with some innovative advertising. And this led to a very strange ad campaign in March of 2008 known as Moonvertising. So here was the core idea. And this was created by the San Francisco-based ad agency Goodby Silverstein and Partners. A fictitious VP of marketing named Rob Stablehorn appeared on TV commercials announcing that Rolling Rock would be putting their logo on the moon soon. The commercial was obviously a joke, because when a scientist fired the laser device, it bounced off a satellite, destroyed several global landmarks, fried a running back in a football game, and best of all, severed southern Florida from the rest of the United States. But it wasn't entirely fiction. The idea was allegedly based on a Coca-Cola marketing executive's fascination with how scientists had measured the distance between the Earth and the moon by shining lasers on the surface And he thought maybe he could use that idea to somehow promote Coca-Cola by shining a laser-generated image on the moon. That marketing exec, whose name was Steve Koonin, pursued the idea for a bit, but gave up on it because it just wasn't feasible. According to Jim Garvin, the chief scientist at the time from NASA's Goddard Flight Center, who gave an interview to the New York Times, making an image visible enough to see on Earth would require projecting an image onto a dark and non-reflective surface that would need to be roughly half the land size of Africa. In other words, moonvertising was never really going to happen, and Rolling Rock never seriously expected people to believe that it would. But they were hoping people would at least talk about it. And this was hardly the first time Goodby, Silverstein, and partners had tried to provoke audiences with a ridiculous premise. A 2006 ad depicted an office full of men clad in thong underwear because it was European style, and they all stuck around because the fridges were filled with Rolling Rock. This prompted an equally comical apology video from the fictional VP Rob Stablehorn. A similar situation happened with another 2006 campaign called Beer Ape, where Ron Stablehorn was forced to make another apology, this time to the Friends of Rolling Rock, who were outraged that a costume gorilla was dancing with girls in bikinis. The idea of these provocatively weird ads was to get people to search for the content of the ads instead of the brand itself. While each commercial had a call to action to visit rollingrock.com, the agency was actually hoping people would search for things like Office Thong or Beer Ape, or the video where Ron Stablehorn apologized for Nostradamus suggesting Rolling Rock would be one day the best beer to drink. And yes, that is completely real. But moonvertising was a little bit different, in part because Rolling Rock was promising a date this time, March 21st, the day of the next full moon. And they even wanted people who saw the commercial or the accompanying billboards to visit moonvertising.com and input messages that could be displayed on the virtual moon on the website. So like I said, the goal of all of this was clearly to stimulate discussion, though I'm not actually sure that it really did. I remember driving past the billboard by Busch Stadium every day and then asking other people if they'd even noticed it. Almost no one had, and few of my acquaintances who were regular beer drinkers were even really that interested. And even my friends who just enjoyed a good spectacle seemed to feel that this idea was a loser for Rolling Rock. I remember the day coming and going without much fanfare, and if memory serves, it was really too cloudy in St. Louis to see the full moon that night anyway. And if anyone at Rolling Rock actually did attempt to go through with it, which I very much doubt, it didn't make the news anywhere that I could find, and I didn't see any pictures online anywhere. But what's worse is that it also didn't help the sales of Rolling Rock. It wasn't another SCHLITZ situation, thankfully, but more of a, where do we go from here once it was all over? It also didn't help that just a few months later, InBev announced its plan to purchase Anheuser-Busch, and whatever plans any brand managers had for the future got put on hold until the buyout was complete. That strange twist of fate also meant InBev was once again stuck with Rolling Rock. The new Anheuser-Busch InBev would try to sell off the Rolling Rock brand in 2009, though they were unsuccessful in doing so. They still own and produce the brand today, though they're not doing anything particularly special with it. The current website, which still bears a copyright date of 2019, focuses on the heritage of the brand and contains some speculative conspiracy-type theories about the meaning of the number 33. It's hardly as exciting as saying you're going to project your logo on the moon. Well, I'm Sean in St. Louis, and this has been The Marketing Gateway. See you next time. Today's plug is for creativity, and I don't mean just coming up with a few fun ideas for an art project. I mean really going wild with ideas, coloring outside the lines with broad and confident strokes, and trying big, dumb, ill-advised things to make people gawk in wonder and amusement, and perhaps a little bit of questioning of your sanity. Creativity certainly comes naturally to some folks more than others, but I've always argued that it's a skill that anyone can develop. All it takes is a love of playing with ideas and affording yourself the privilege of bending the rules of reality once in a while. But here's the benefit of doing that. It makes things more fun, and it makes the world a more magical and interesting place. Here in St. Louis, we have a place with the seemingly unimaginative name of the City Museum, but anyone who's ever been into the City Museum would never find it boring. It is a massive, multi-story indoor playground made out of reclaimed concrete and building features and discarded industrial artwork. There are tunnels to scamper through, caves to explore, aquariums to view, giant slides to go down, and there's even a Ferris wheel and a praying mantis up on the roof. Every time you go, there's something new and different to see, and it's a testament to the creative energy of many of the wonderful people who build the experiences there. But you don't have to get creative on that scale to delight people. Sometimes just coming up with something fun for a few moments can brighten someone else's day. Creativity can be a spark that can ignite a far bigger flame over time. So let me encourage you to take some time every day to try to do something creative, whether it's telling a story, writing a joke, drawing a picture, building a model, or just coming up with some wild idea that you have to take from concept to reality, no matter how crazy it may seem. The more you exercise your own creativity, the easier it gets to create bigger and better things you never dreamed were possible before. And that's just more fun for everyone.